Running, jumping, leaping towards love. Part 10. Adrien snuck a peek behind him, hiding the move as a way to crack his back. Oh my god, it was just so obvious. Marinette was Ladybug. How had he not noticed before? Really, he was such a fool to not see it before, and considering the fact that he was close to her and Ladybug, it was kind of really concerning that he had just now figured it out. Then again, Plag constantly ridiculed him for being a mindless, fluffy, oblivious mess of a teenage boy. Lovingly, of course. He had all night to figure out how he felt about them being the same person, and it was safe to say that Adrien was very happy that it ended up being her. He ran back through all the memories, those of Marinette and Ladybug, and realized that they really were one and the same. Their differences weren't perhaps as striking as his and Chat Noir's. Ladybug roared her authoritative side whenever Chloe or Lila was involved, making Marinette stand up straight and put them in their place, especially the former. Whenever Ladybug got nervous, she stuttered the way Marinette always did. In fact, her clumsiness was clearly showing the first day they met. The issue was now trying to figure out how to deal with school and fight alongside with her, knowing this new information. Luckily, they spent a lot of time together, considering Ollie and Nino, but it wasn't like they talked much. The day before, their conversation and Marinette's understanding of the secrecy made a ton more sense, but it did make him realize that they didn't speak much. Adrien wondered idly and worriedly that perhaps Marinette didn't like him as Adrien, and not even in a friend way. "You two should race," Alia said, bringing up the topic from the day before. Adrien imagined racing Marinette. She was fast, and he now knew why. The idea was sort of intimidating. Running around Paris almost every day made it so he knew her speed, and there were many times he was struggling to match her. Okay, then again, those were times that he wasn't paying attention to the fight. So there's also that. Maybe. Marinette looked away from Adrien's direction. He saw Alia raise a brow at Marinette and silently say something to her. "We should definitely do that sometime," Adrien said brightly, hoping Marinette wouldn't flat out refuse. Marinette made some slight squeaking noise. Oh God, she did not like him. Sure, she said after a couple seconds. Maybe not not right now, she did say. Alia practically squealed and clapped her hands so quickly. Sounds wonderful. Let's do it soon. Adrien nodded enthusiastically while Marinette made a slight noise of confirmation that he really hoped it wasn't one of forced agreement. A screeching noise caught their attention. Everyone's heads turned towards the sound. Their rival team was here. The meet was about to start. Out of the yellow school bus, 50-some runners came filing out, and boy, were they loud. Adrien completely understood their energy. He was jumping up and down from nerves and excitement. Their coach was trying to get the team settled, and his arm was waving in the air and was shouting rather loudly. Adrien winced at the idea of being close to the coach when he was yelling. His voice was heard even at the bleachers so far away. "I do hope Akuma doesn't crash this meet," Nino said with a sigh. Alia swung her hands together. "I do. Kinda, at least. There hasn't been an interesting one recently, and my blog has been pretty dry," she said mournfully. Marinette gasped dramatically. "Don't say that! Attacks are terrible!" she scolded the brunette, who just stuck out her tongue. "Well, whatever happens, I hope this time I actually get to finish my... whatever happens, I hope this time I actually get to finish my event," Adrien added to the conversation. Alia nodded and commented about how that would be the ideal situation. The stream of opposite team runners came onto the track and flooded onto the bleachers reserved for them. The coach met up and exchanged pleasantries, albeit they were clearly tensed. Hands were shaken, rather tightly, and the other team leapt onto the track to warm up. Adrien kept his eyes on the hurdlers, gauging their speeds and how often they tripped up. He rarely caught a foot on a hurdle thanks to his long legs and leaps as Chat Noir, but it didn't hurt to know how lazy he could get with the leaps. Maybe that wasn't the best mindset, but hey, Adrien preferred to be calm when he ran rather than being tense. His speeds were higher when not in the middle of a freak out. The blonde tried to guess the top time for the lead runner. The redhead seemed rather fast, but not terrifying so. Maybe around his 90% speed? Maybe faster? Adrien sucked in a breath and glanced down at his bag. On top was his watch, but beneath was his communicator, and that was what he was truly watching for. However, Meredith must have thought that he checked the time because of nervousness for racing. "You're gonna do great," she said with a comforting tone of voice. Or maybe she always sounded like that, so encouraging and kind. "He's no faster than you are. I've seen you run faster than that with much less panting afterwards," the girl continued with a kind smile. "Much like once you'd give Akuma victims after the butterfly had been cleansed, and they were lost in a sea of confusion as Ladybug." "Thank you," Adrien said, smiling back at her, wondering how in the world he had missed Ladybug being right in front of his face. God, he had been a fool for so long. Before long, the meet had officially started, and so far, no Akumas or Akuma causing meltdowns had happened. Alia had just ran her event, and was now catching her breath while Marinette gushed over how fast she was going. "You're the best," Alia said through ragged breaths and gulps of water. Adrien sent her 2 thumbs up as he made his way down to his event line. "You're gonna do great, dude," Nino shouted at the top of his lungs. Adrien turned around and narrowly missed running into someone, and waved his arms as a way to show that he had heard, or else Nino would probably keep screeching incoherently across the track to get his message across. Unsurprisingly, Adrien got some stares from the girls at the opposite team, and gapes from the guys. This happened every time. No one actually believed that the Adrienette Gress was running track at a public school. He wanted to scoff, please, like the fact that he was a celebrity, and not even, he was just the son of one. Like, literally, he was the son of a designer. Did that really make it so he couldn't do normal things like run? How did that even make sense? Yes, his father was strict out of all things, but that didn't mean running was out of the question. A lot of people thought that, though, with all eyes on him, you'd think Adrien was used to the stares from random girls, questioning stares whether he was real or not. But to assume would be to be incorrect. He still felt squeamish from all the special attention and was so ready for the heat to finish so that all the attention could be dispersed among the other candidates. The parent volunteers directed his heat to step up, and it was nice to get his mind focused to run as fast as possible. Licking his lips, Adrien looked ahead, imagining himself running over the hurdles at record time. He could almost feel the ground bouncing from underneath his feet, the wind in his hair that came from his own speed, the whoosh he always felt when leaping over something, whether it be a hurdle or the space between buildings. The starting pistol shot off, and so did Adrien. Off he went, running as hard and fast as he could, pumping his legs and moving his arms so his knees would follow. 1. He leapt over a hurdle. His foot didn't even come close to grazing the top. Adrien could hear all of the loud cheers and shouts, though it sounded more like movie background noises lulling. 2. Another hurdle passed, literally and physically. Another and another and another and another. People were still screaming. One piercing shout rang through, though, almost throwing him off focus. Never mind who made that noise. Adrien focused again. In his peripheral vision, the blonde noticed the very fast redhead coming in close. Oh God, he was coming very close. Another hurdle. A couple left. Hopefully he'd have the speed and strength to stay fronted. Come on, Adrien, I know you can do it! That one yell rang and pierced Adrien's ears. Marinette was cheering for him. Yes, she always cheered for him and all on their team for that matter, but there's something about him knowing that she was cheering for him that felt different. She believed in him. Marinette believed and knew he could win. Ladybug believed and knew he could win. Adrien gritted his teeth. There was no way he would let her down. Focusing all his energy, Adrien forced his already burning legs to go faster. The redhead seemed to disappear in the distance. Good. That's very good. More crazy shouts came from the stands when Adrien leapt the final hurdle and crossed the finish line with a powerful sprint. It took a couple more yards before Adrien was finally able to stop, but when he finally did, he was barely able to catch his breath. His lungs were crying out for more air. One after another, his opponents crossed and stood hunched over like him, breathing heavily. Nice job, he said with a weak but kind smile. They all gave him the same sportsmanship. Well, other than one, but Adrien opted to ignore the glare from the kid. That was fast, the track coach said with a wide grin before telling him the time he had gotten. Adrien almost choked on the air. What? He went how much? 10 minutes later, Adrien had finally dragged himself up to the stands. Nino gripped him into a huge bro hug. Dude, you went booking it, the brunette cried out. Alia was giving him the same, oh my God look she had always given Marinette. And speaking of which, you won, she said, her tone a bit softer, but her excitement was evident on her face. Yeah, he had. Oh my goodness, he had won the race! And all because of Marinette's one little special cheer. Adrien downed his water bottle and crushed his friends into a group hug. You did great! No, more than great. You did so well. No, still better. You went, oh my God, you won! Marinette tripped over her words, but Adrien didn't mind. He practically glowed at her. She had a slight blush on her face, and he guessed the same red was on his face. Though after running, Adrien was often bright red, so there was also that. Because of you. You're like my lucky charm, Adrien wanted to say. The words almost spilled out of his mouth, but somehow he was able to hold it in. That would be a very short memoir line to say, and Marinette would probably not appreciate it very much. Instead, Adrien managed to smile back at her. I beat my PR, he said with a matching, soft and slightly shy voice. Marinette's eyes gleamed again. Really? The black-haired girl said, pride in her voice. Adrien opened his mouth to confirm, but he never got the chance. Crash! Followed by a huge snarl, a large purple creature jumped onto one of the empty sides of the bleachers. It was the sentient monster. Oh my God! Did every track meet have to get crashed? Well, at least this time he was able to finish the event. Adrien looked over at Alia, who was shyly held up her phone, ready to film. Nino had his arms crossed and a very don't you dare type look on his face. And Marinette was holding her friend back from running to film. Well, it's not technically an Akuma.